Hello everyone and welcome back to the Chassis Variant series of myself, Critical Rocket. Today we're on the new mech, we're on the Banshee. Now, MechWarrior Online has actually a short number of variants of the Banshee, unfortunately, with the standard 3E and this being the 3M and 3S. Now, the Banshee, if you haven't listened to the Lore Warrior about it that I made, is a really old design, dating back to the 2400s. It's a particularly old assault mech, and even when it was first introduced, it was considered to be relatively undergunned. Good armour, big engine, big for its size and very fast for its size, but sadly not much else. It's always been one of the ones that I felt looked cool on tabletop, looked great in the books, and was a fantastic brawler, but I'll admit, it's not the best combat mech in Battletech. It just looks sweet. The 3M, which we see here, is one of the attempts over the centuries to try and improve the Banshee. This was by the Free Worlds League, introduced in the 2500s, I think. It was basically the idea of taking one of the removing the autocannon 5 and adding an extra PPC, and with the reduced weight load from removing the ammunition and the such, it allowed them to install 2 medium lasers. So the base build is okay. It makes it a bit more of a sniper with some very, very limited short range or extreme range attack abilities, but it's not really going to fit any particular mold well. It's also kind of surprising as it's a Marik mech that really heavily relies on weapon types that they don't have in huge numbers anymore, so I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see many Banshee 3Ms up to the 30-25 period. Before that, in the first and second Succession Wars, and the third maybe, yeah, definitely, but the 30-25 onwards, up until the Hell Memory Core, probably not many 3Ms were knocking around with the PPCs. The only upside is that the Banshee was still in pretty good numbers, because most commanders viewed them as a liability, and they relegated them to training, militia, and if they were going to use them, just to beat the crap out of something that they knew it could beat the crap out of, or to attack backwall to periphery worlds, or at worst, it's a desperation mech. If you need something, stick a Banshee in there. So the 3M wasn't a particularly roaring success. It did improve in some respects, and as such it continued on its way. Now, PGI obviously looked at something like the Banshee and decided that what it needed to make it more viable was 8 energy hardpoints. This thing is bristling potentially with energy weaponry. It's got hardpoints in its side torsos, left and right, and it's got 1 in the head. This makes the mech potentially really friggin' deadly. If we look at it, 3 in the left torso, 4 in the right torso, 1 in the head. It's got a max engine rating of 400, and it comes with a standard 380 anyway. So the mech can have a huge amount of firepower, and it can run particularly fast. Essentially, you could turn it into a charger without it being a charger. It's kind of strange. But this was PGI's idea of trying to make it more viable to customers, and I think it worked at the time. You don't see that many Banshees these days, obviously, because there are other options out there, mechs that are a bit more effective at their particular role, and sadly that's the result you get, is an assault mech that is kind of flavour of the month, and by that I mean the month it was released, and that maybe a little bit after that, and afterwards it just sort of faded, which is a shame. I think the Banshee does look really cool. It was a fantastic update of a classic design, visually I mean. Its weapon loadout isn't terrible, as I said. It can be very easily modified to be some brutal high energy usage mech, which is obviously PGI's intent here with giving it so many hard points in the first place. You could easily upgrade most of those weapons to things like ER PPCs, or you could just boat it with a load of ER mediums, standard mediums, a load of pulse lasers with a shit ton of double heat sinks. You can, Christ, I mean, it's like it could be a large laser sniper. It can fit a number of roles energy wise, but that is the downside, is that it only has energy, so if you want ballistics, you're up shit creek in that regard, so you may want to sort of hold back on that. Interesting fact is if you want to run some of the more lore type builds, there are actually a few sort of for MechWarrior they'd call it Civil War tech, but 3060s era tech. So there's a version that has an ERPPC, but it has a heavy Gauss. There's a version that brings ER lasers to the fight. There's one that brings a Gauss rifle, and I think it's a snub nose. I'll have to double check some of these, but the Banshee later on does open up with a whole bunch of new weapon types out there that suddenly massively improve it. It was one of those mechs that I think the writers had a lot of fun with, being able to basically have like a blank canvas to sort of play with before they decided to, you know, give it some actual teeth. So yeah, would I recommend the 3M? I mean, I'd recommend the Banshee anyway, because I think it's just such a fun design visually, and it is a nice mech when you start using the hardpoints. So yeah, I'd look at it if you're into your custom builds. Definitely, it's a pretty decent assault mech. It's obviously a great weight category to be in. Doesn't obviously have any jump jets or anything like that, but not many assaults do anyway. You don't have to worry about your arms, so you can use them as shields, so you can just drop the armor off them and put the armor into other locations that are more important, or use that free weight for heat sinks or whatever you want to do. They're basically superfluous. It's a zombie mech. You don't need to run anything like an XL. You probably don't need to run a light fusion engine, which is something some of the later builds do. But you can if you want, again, to save a bit more weight, but you do have to bear in mind that as soon as you stick in the LFE, you're not going to have as much space for your energy weapons. So yeah, keep that in mind, and you should have some pretty good fun with the Banshee 3M. So that's the end of that round. I got thrashed on Manifold. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Have a good week, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye!